Welcome, my name's Annalia Pisani from AZ Solutions, and I'm going to take you through conditional formatting. The areas I'm going to take you through in conditional formatting is how to set the cell rules if you have a whole bunch of figures, for example, and you want to splash out in colour any figures that are over a certain amount. So this is great to keep track of budgets, expenses that you don't go over a certain amount. Or maybe when your stock is running a little low, you might have your little benchmark of if everything gets below 10, you need to reorder, restock, and that way you'll see them splash out in colour. Now this concept of conditional formatting, it's like doing an if function, except the only thing that this will do is if it meets that criteria, it will apply formatting. So it's a feature rather than a function. So first you need to select the range of cells where you want to apply that colouring. So Control Shift arrow down and Control Backspace to get you back up, but keep that data selected. Now from the Home tab we can go to Conditional Formatting, select Highlight Cells Greater Than, and we'll highlight anything over 1,000. Notice we don't have to put in the thousand separator or any decimals unless you wanted to find out decimals. It will automatically come up with a colour. If you don't like that colour, you can choose from the other default colours that are available, but you can also go to Custom Format and then choose your own font colour if you wanted, font size, make it bold if you wanted to. I'm just going to go for a background colour. So anything that now meets that criteria is splashed out in colour. If the figures change, so for example, this one here now meets the criteria, then it will now splash out in colour. If this one changed and it was all incorrect, and I make it a number lower, then it no longer meets the criteria, so therefore it does not splash out in colour. I'll just undo those steps now. So we've done the greater than, data bars. So I'm going to select the data here. Sometimes instead of having to resort the information in the numbers lowest to highest, so you can see where your highs and lows are, you like to keep the information as is, but you would like to know where those highs and lows are. And the data bar can help you with that. So if we go to the conditional formatting, go into data bars, and it's a matter of choosing whatever color you like. I'll stick to the green theme. And there you go. So what it's done is taken a look at that information and had a look at which is the longest or the largest number and filled that in all the way across and then worked it out for each of the others. So again, if any of these figures change, then the graph automatically adjusts itself. You may have seen people use icons. So icons are great, but when you use the icons, you might look at that and say, well, what does that mean? What does it mean when they have a tick box or a cross or these flags or any of these other different little options here? Now I'm going to go for these ones here. So you can see them here that they've been applied, but just looking at that, it's confusing and you think, well, I don't really know what constitutes who's going to get that cross. So if you are going to use this feature, you really will need to have a little legend that displays that information with you. So the way to do that is you need to click in a cell that still has the conditional formatting applied to it, come to the conditional formatting command and select Manage Rules. This will give us a list of all the rules that have been applied for that cell range. So if I click here, select Edit, I can then make changes such as change the icons to something else, or I can adjust the value options here. Now what we're really interested in is only this little section here. The key that I like to use to give me that little snapshot is the Windows, Shift and S, and that will give you just that little snippet there. So now I can click and drag diagonally, let go, Hit OK to get out of all of this, pick a spot and paste. So Control V to paste. And so now I have a little legend so I can visually see that the tick represents, yep, so I can see what each of the items represents. Another feature with the conditional formatting is you might want to highlight the top 10 figures. So instead of sorting this in order of lowest to highest or highest to lowest, and then selecting the first 10 items, this will do it for you. So again, Control Shift Arrow to select all of those values, back into conditional formatting. And this option here, you can have top 10 items. There's a whole bunch of other options here, but top 10 items is what we're going to go for. Again, choose your coloring or let it default to the coloring you want. You can change that to the top 10, the top 5, the top 100, whatever your thing may be, but it's done there for you without the task of you having to resort the information. The next thing I'll show you is you may want to color not only that column that meets that criteria, but the whole row. So for example, if the Bank of ANZ is entered in here, then I want the whole row to be coloured to stand out, not just ANZ. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to understand about absolute cell referencing. You might like to check out one of my videos on absolute cell referencing. Also on my website, I have an article that articulates absolute cell referencing as well. Take a look at the details at the bottom of this YouTube, and I'll have that listed there, the links listed there for you. So because we want to apply the rule to a lot of cells or all the cells, you will need to highlight all of the data that you want this to be applied to. So Control Shift arrow down, or whatever way you like to select all of that data. Now the way it's going to be looking at it is saying I'm going to need to reference this, whatever's in this column, and I'm going to need to tell it to say, based on what's in column D, if it's equal to A and Z, then apply the colour. So the way it's going to do this is, because I've selected all of the data, it's going to take a look at it as if I'm here, and I need a formula. I'm going to be doing a formula that says, take a look at the information in column D, and does that meet the criteria? If the answer is yes, then this becomes coloured. It'll be the same thing if I'm over here. I need it to say, if in column D is equal to A and Z, then apply colour. And then if it's correct for the whole row, then each individual one is referencing this column. Therefore, the whole row will be coloured. Let's take a look. So I'm going to select the whole block of data where I want the colour to take effect. Then I come into conditional formatting, and I need to create a new rule. Now the rule I'm creating is one that's going to be a formula. The formula is going to say, look at whatever is in this cell here, but really what we're after, whatever's in column D. So as we are in a different cell, you need to constantly be looking at whatever's in D. So we need to anchor with the absolute only the column reference D. So if that is equal to ANZ, then we want to apply a particular colour. So all of the ANZ entries have been applied with colour. Take a look at another scenario with a formula. So by formula, let's say I wanted to highlight all of the entries for today's date. So in this one here, to enter today's date, you can do Control semicolon, and that will give you the current date, and that date come tomorrow will not update and change. So now that I've got several entries with today, I want to highlight only where that is equal to today's date. From conditional formatting, highlight rules, there's an option here about a date occurring, because you might like to highlight not only the current date, so today's date, yesterday's date, tomorrow's date, the last 7 days, and you've got a whole bunch of options and choices here. So I'm going to ask it to highlight anything that is today, leave it with the default color, and it's highlighted anything that meets that criteria. Remember to subscribe and have a look at the links that I've left you below so that you can follow along with me with these exercises.